Here we go. Welcome back to the second season of Roaming with Restless Women. I am Julie Noonan, your host. Today I have with me Lesle Lane. Leslie has taken her family's traditions and turned them into something absolutely vibrant and modern. A studio that bridges art and business. It mentors women in creative leadership and supports businesses through compelling visual storytelling. Her influence spans small town business legacy as well as innovative technology adoption, mentorship, and public thought leadership. It's called Studio 13, and we're here to hear all about it today. Welcome, Leslie.
Hey, Julie, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you are more than welcome. Okay, so I am very interested in how this all got started. So why don't we start at the beginning and just tell me a little bit about your journey and how you came upon this idea.
Sure, we'll go from a Google Eyes view since it's a long story, but
Okay.
I am actually a third generation photographer. So my grandfather and grandmother started the business, and then my mother and my biological father got into their business, spanned off on their own, and then my parents got divorced, and then my
Mm,
mother moved to Indiana to marry a man named Joe McGuire, who became my stepfather when I was 6 years old. And I am now actually working a manifestation of their business together, working in corporate spaces only. So I only work
mm.
B2B. I don't do weddings or babies or families. And so people, they lots of time ask me, did you have a choice? Did you have a choice but to go into this industry? And I didn't ever feel like I was forced into it.
Hmm.
But there came a moment of decision. And when that moment
Yeah.
of decision came, I took it. So it's been a very up and down journey. If you talk to anybody in the technological space coming in from the film age, all the way through digital, and now we're dealing with AI. It has been a roller coaster of a ride, and that's without even talking about the personal journey. So I'm
Yeah.
glad to be here and glad to have so many strong women behind me.
Oh, that's amazing. And so did your grandfather and grandmother and your parents, whichever version of those. I know I have a divorced parent situation as well. So did they go into it with like a studio where people would come in and it was more families, or did they go into the corporate world?
Sure. My grandmother and grandfather, they ran a portrait and wedding photography business in Columbus, Georgia. And so they were all about the families and all about being local to that community. And they were a
Yeah.
pillar. They were a pillar of that community. But they came into the time where black and white film was transitioning to color film. And so
Yeah.
that was a huge disruptor in their life because you could process black and white film at home, but you couldn't process color film at home. And so
Yeah.
my father and my mother partnered with my grandparents to start a color laboratory in the same town so that they could basically feed business back and forth to each other. And that grew into a nationwide mail in business where people would mail their film into my mom and dad's laboratory. They would process it and mail it back. And so, just knowing and looking, people think, oh my gosh, they don't think about what a disruptor that was, that you couldn't do it
Oh
yourself anymore.
yeah.
And it was huge. And so, mom and dad built a very, very successful business. Unfortunately, the marriage didn't last, but it was because of the change when my mom married my stepdad that I became one of the first commercial photographers in the family because of my stepfather.
And so did he got into the corporate
That was
part? That's
all
how
he
you got.
did. So yeah, so
Oh.
my dad and my mom and my stepdad met at a convention, a photographic convention, and my stepfather was a keynote speaker talking about this commercial photography industry. He was a he was a pillar in the community and he knew his stuff. So he was just such a big personality, and my mom was captivated by him immediately. And so it wasn't long before she moved to where his business was, which was here in Indiana.
Wow. Wow. It's amazing that she kind of found her way still into the same industry. That's
Well, she was
amazing.
still working, so even though my parents divorced, they did so relatively amicably,
Yeah.
and she was still working for her business, and so she would travel from each convention to promote this mail-in laboratory. But she knew that eventually, that you can't really work with your ex-husband for a long period of time and remain amicable.
Yeah, I guess not. Oh boy. So when you started, tell me about that decision point and
So my
how that what that was
grandparents
like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my grandparents had the great idea of running your business out of your home. And
Uh-huh.
so that would keep their overhead low. And so when my mom married my stepdad and he had both a home and a business, she's like, it would be a much better idea if we consolidated this into one. And so our family home was actually the business. The first floor
Okay.
and the basement were photography, and then we had a second floor that was our home. So we moved into that.
Oh.
Yeah. So we moved into that facility when I was 12. So there was no coming downstairs in your pajamas. You had to be fully dressed with makeup on, ready to greet clients the moment you stepped onto the staircase. And so I spent my entire growing up time being a part of the business. I knew the employees, they knew me. It was just my life. I didn't think too much
Yeah.
about it. And so when I got ready to go to college, my stepfather was like, okay, I don't want you to get a photo degree. I can teach you everything you need to know. I need you to get a well-rounded liberal arts education. And I'm like, liberal
Oh,
arts?
wow. Not
And it
business?
not business. And he's like, I can teach you the business, I can teach you the photography. I need you to be able to talk to everybody from the janitors to the senators. And he felt like that having a well-rounded education where I could talk on a variety of topics would be more compelling to the business than a business degree. I don't know that I agree with him on that, Julie. I'm going to say I did end up
I
going.
do.
You
I
do?
do because I went to a liberal arts college, and what I have found is people who have experienced more than just a business, and I hate to say just a business degree because it is very difficult, and it's necessary. And I missed having some of that business background, right, when I started my own business. But critical thinking and ethics and philosophy and and religion, if you will, all of that really helped me become a little bit more people oriented and easier to get into different cultures and understanding where people are coming from. So, why don't you agree?
Well, no, I wouldn't give up my liberal arts education for anything. I just wish I would have had some business to go along with it.
Yeah. Me
And so
too. Me
what I
too.
did was
Yeah.
I ended up going back when I was
Uh-huh.
50 and I got my MBA when I was 50. And I'm really grateful for that. But at the time, I think he was very much right. I think that, and
Yeah.
both my parents agreed that that was good for us. And so, it's just one of those things. It's easy to look back and go, well, I wish, instead of
Yeah.
really appreciating it. But I do appreciate and loved my experience at my liberal arts college. I had a wonderful experience. And he was right. One of the very first things that I had to do when I came into the business was that I went into a place that had been doing business with my parents. And the valet that had parked my car the last time I was there was now the head of marketing. And so when I walked in
Wow.
and she's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm here to see the head of marketing." And she said, "That's me." I'm like, "Didn't you park my car like 6 months ago?" And she said, "I did." She goes, I finally got the job I wanted. And she was
How
totally
wonderful.
open to speaking to me because I was nice to her. I was, talking to her when she was parking my car. And so I think that there's a very solid thought process to that liberal arts education. And I
Oh,
actually
yeah.
serve on my alumni board at my alma mater, Butler University. So very grateful for that.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, I'm glad you brought up liberal arts education because I think it's just It doesn't get enough attention these days. And I think, we ask kids to make these big life decisions so early when they haven't even experienced enough to know what they like or what they are good at or anything like that. They just expect to get out, immediately go into a career and go straight to the top without any kind of, I don't know, I sound like an old fogey, but all of the jobs that I had, no matter how small, really taught me something, about either the industry or the customers or how to marry all of the different experiences and talents that I had into what I do now, which I absolutely love what I do now. So that's wonderful. I'm glad you had that experience. So tell me about some of the challenges early on when you started into this business.
Yeah, so my parents, not my parents, let me rephrase, my dad thought that girls should be wedding photographers. And I just was not a real big fan of that. And so
Yeah.
they had me as the administrator. I did the quoting and the invoicing and stuff like that. I answered the phones. And there came a day where my stepfather went to have open heart surgery and he did not come back. So he had two
Oh,
strokes while he was having open heart surgery and ended up being in a nursing facility. And so my mom came home one day and she said, "You either take it over or we're closing it down." And so, being that I was 23 years old and pretty stupid, I thought I could do it.
oh my goodness, that happened so early for
It
you.
did, it did.
Oh,
And so I did. And so I think
hmm.
that there's a good side and a downside to that. Certainly I lost a ton of money in the beginning because I didn't have a clue what I was doing. But because when you're young and you don't have the life experience, you're not afraid. And
Yeah,
so I think that there was a benefit to that. And so, the first 5 years were an incredible challenge because the only experience I had in photography was shooting for either the yearbook at school or just shooting for myself. And so, learning
yeah,
how to take pictures for an advertising campaign or to work with a
yeah.
marketing company or, what story are we trying to tell through photography? That took some time. And by the time I got through that really difficult part of my career, film was changing to digital. And
Yeah.
so that was a huge challenge. But because I was so young, again, I wasn't afraid. And so I decided to take out a $200,000 loan for my first camera.
Whoa, that's
Yeah,
wow, good for you.
yeah, it cost more than my first house.
I'm sure. Well, I'm thinking back. Holy cow, that's a huge amount of money for a camera.
Well, you had to replace all of your like you had to replace everything. So like
Okay.
none
Yeah,
of the
your whole
lights would
operating
work.
system. Yeah.
None
Oh
of the
my
lights would
gosh.
work. None of the lenses would work. You couldn't use the same tripod. I mean, nothing was the same. And so, I figured, why not? This is the way it's going to go. I might as well jump in now. And we did great for a while. We really did. But unfortunately, then the recession of '08, '09, '10, I almost say it was a
Yes.
people disagree with me that it was a 3 year session, but I'm telling you, for marketing and advertising, it seemed it went on forever. It went on
Yeah.
forever. And that was at the same time that we were having a technological disruption, which was the change from cameras being this big to being cell phones and point and shoots. All that was
Right.
going on at the same time. So my $200,000 camera was obsolete. And the investment, even though it was far less, than what it had been was still 50 grand to replace
Wow.
it. And so, the business is down. I'm going through marital problems. The economy's sucking. And I had to file bankruptcy. I lost everything.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, and it was embarrassing. It was
Oh
humiliating.
yes. Yes.
By then, I really was quite a talented photographer, but everything just married at the wrong time. I mean, it could not have happened any worse. And luckily, because I'm a third generation photographer, my mother would absolutely not let me quit. She said, You're the best photographer we've had in the family. I'm not going to let you quit. She bought my equipment out of bankruptcy court for me, and
Oh,
she got me back on my feet again. And so, again, humbled when your mother in a family like this feels like that you have a gift worth continuing on.
investing
So,
in. Yeah. I
and
mean, it
she
was her
did.
future too,
Yep.
you know.
Yep. So it was challenging to say the least. I did end up moving. I had a studio at that time, ended up moving it back into my home, just like my
Mhm.
parents had done. And that certainly was a game changer to get that overhead. But again, I
I
was
can
married and
imagine. Yeah.
I had children, so we didn't want the business in the home. And so then by the time I got divorced, moved it back into the home, and it kind of started the stabilization process.
Oh, that's great. And so now tell me about Studio 13.
Yes. So my children are grown. I'm now the grandmother of two, which is the bomb. I love being a grandma.
Oh, gosh, me too. I have a 10-month-old grandson, and he's probably the only one I'm going to get.
Okay.
So he's my world. I'm telling you, I just love it. So how old are yours?
They are 2 and 4.
Oh,
And
they're so much
so I
fun.
set up my current home is set up for both business and for the children, so
Mm-hmm.
that they always have a place for me with me. I
Yep.
shoot out of my garage when I need a studio, but most of my work is on location. And so during COVID, a lot happened during COVID. So
Oh,
the PPP funding, the ability for me to consolidate debt at a lower interest rate,
yeah.
update some of my equipment. But the other thing that happened, which I hope that other women realized, is that I spent a lot of my young years running my business in a silo. So, running my
Mm,
business, just me and the people I knew or my family. And before COVID hit, I started expanding that, where I was building a network of people in different
mm-hmm.
industries. I was gaining insight from other women. And one of the wonderful institutions that I have become really close with is the Women in Commercial Real Estate. And so
Mm,
these are some of the heaviest hitters in a male dominated field. And those women have taught me so much. And so when COVID hit, I was surrounded by people that could help me, that could guide me. Where during the earlier recession, I didn't know anybody that could help me. And so I came out of COVID really
yes.
strong. My business did not drop, but about 15%, which I was grateful for. And then I started generating enough work that I couldn't do it all. And it used to be that I just passed it off, that I'm like, oh, here's a photographer that'll do it. I know this
Uh-huh.
person. And then I'm like, why am I giving away business? And
Business. Yeah.
so I built a team of 9 different independent contractors,
Mm-hmm.
photographers with different gifts and talents. I brought on an administrator, a social media person, and a salesperson, all working as contractors. And now, whatever work I can't do, or maybe it's a kind of work I don't do, because I brought in videographers, drone operators, event photographers. So I totally expanded the business into different sectors in order to create more revenue. And this was actually the brainchild of my mother back in the 1990s, but she didn't have the right environment for it. Where now we've got so many people wanting to be gig workers, so many people
Mm-hmm.
that don't want to work 40 hours a week. And so this was just it was her brainchild, but my right timing.
Yes. Well, it sounds very much similar to my journey. When I was laid off when I was 57
Mm.
and from my consulting company during COVID, actually. And so that's when I went full tilt on my business. I had opened it a couple of years before just to take on, a few jobs here and there because I knew that, I've been laid off 4 times in my career. So at that point it was like I can't rely on anybody at no company because who knows what's going to happen in the market. It's not their fault, it's not my fault, just is what it is. And so when I got laid off and started my company and really kicked it into gear, one of the biggest decisions I made was I don't want to have employees but I want to have a network of 1099s.
Right.
And so I have fielded teams of, 5, 10, 20 people to take on these consulting projects that I knew it's not, I can't do them on my own. Now I'm kind of back at the, lot of life changes recently for me. But now I'm kind of back at I just want to be my own independent contractor. I'll take jobs from other people, so I'm kind of in that, I don't know, preparing to go a little easier.
Hmm.
I don't want to say retire because I don't think that's ever possible for me. I'm too busy. But yeah, it's nice to have those communities, like you said,
It
because when
is.
I made that decision in COVID, I was surrounded. I had found these communities of women, and that's why I started Roaming with Restless Women. That's why I started this podcast because I thought, good heavens, listen to all these wonderful stories and these this wisdom that we've learned. We can pass that along to whomever comes behind us, and maybe that'll help them out, you know?
I think it's imperative that we pass it along. I mean, my
Yeah.
grandmother was running her business in the 40s and 50s. My
Jeez.
mom did the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and I picked up in the 90s. And what would we be without the women behind us, whether it's sisters, aunts, parents, or whether it's just a great network of strong women? We're nothing without standing on the shoulders of the women behind us.
Oh, and boy, did it. It used to be we competed with each other,
Hmm.
and it's nice for me to see that really has gone by the wayside, at least over the last 10 years in my experience. I don't feel like I'm competing with other women. I'm helping them, I'm supporting them because we were playing the guys' game,
Hmm.
when we were competing with each other. So they like to do that.
They
I
do,
don't
well, it's
like,
in their nature. It's in their nature.
yes, I
And
don't like to compete with other women.
I feel like that the mentality of give it forward.
Hmm.
I have received more referrals because I've helped somebody else with a referral.
Yes,
And even other photographers and videographers will pass work on to me because of the kindness that I've shown them. And so I just feel like that, sure, especially in my industry where it's creative, so am I really competing against somebody else? No, not really, because my thumbprint of photography is different than somebody else's. And even my
right.
team members that I have that shoot jobs for me, they don't shoot it just like me. And so I feel like that if you're in a consulting business, that how you consult is going to be different than how somebody else consults. And so I don't
Absolutely.
feel like we have to compete. We can just help each other.
I believe that's to be true. And I think it speaks well of you as a person when you're willing to collaborate and you're willing to recognize that you're not the be all end all. That there's always a new perspective. There's always somebody else that can add a little spice, to whatever you do. And that's why I really enjoy consulting, getting to, I guess, just hang out with other people and hear what they have to say. And it's really wonderful. So, are your kids involved in your business?
They are not, and that is a
Oh,
I think that going through as many economic and industrial uh, situations that I've gone through, I did not really encourage them to follow in my footsteps. Now, I have a granddaughter that the moment I put a little camera in her hand and she walks around and she takes pictures and she likes to be in the studio with me, she might pick up a little bit of it. But I've kind of had to switch my mentality that in my legacy, unfortunately, will not be passing my business on to the fourth generation.
mm-hmm.
And so I've had to turn it to mentoring other photographers. I think we have 5 female photographers on my team. I mentor at my alma mater, like I said, Butler University. Um,
Yeah.
One of my clients is also Ivy Tech Community College here in the state of Indiana. I mentor students from there and just try to get people interested in business or what can I do for them, and hopefully find a apprentice at some point, someone that
Uh-huh.
would want to take over my business in the next 10 years and just continue to put myself out there so that maybe that might flow back to me. I would love to be able to sell the business in 10 years, uh, but most importantly, just make a difference and an impact on future leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are coming to the end of our time, and I have three questions that I always ask at the end.
Okay.
All right, where do you like to roam?
Where do I like to roam? Anywhere in Europe, really. I love architecture, and
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
the oldest buildings are my favorite because it is just a splendor and an art and a craft that touches my soul.
Well, and anymore, it seems like we're losing a piece of that. Although I've seen some really, really good art coming out recently. I think art is getting a renovation or a renaissance. I'm finding a lot of interesting pieces lately, which I really love. Okay, so the next question is, what makes you restless in a good way?
Restless in a good way.
Yes.
Wow, that's a tough question. I can tell you all kinds of things that make me restless, all kinds of things that make me worry, but restless in a good way.
Mhm.
Um, so having two grandchildren
Oh
and
yeah.
they're exhausting. And
Yeah.
so, I look back and I had kids when I was 27 and 29, and I was
Hmm.
tired. But when I keep my grandchildren for 5 days in a row, and I've got two, I get very restless leading up to it because I feel like I need a plan.
Oh
And
yeah.
and it's restless in an exciting way, but my husband and I, we will sit down and we're like, okay, we're going to do this for breakfast, we're going to do this for lunch, we're going to take them to this playground. And so I feel like that I am more anxious about scheduling my time with my grandchildren than I am scheduling the largest photo production I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say
Oh
that
yeah.
that makes me the most restless is making sure that I am not overwhelmed by a 4 and a 2-year-old.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm looking forward to the 4 and 2-year-old days. I'm in that he's almost walking and, kind of worried about where's he going next and
Yep.
making sure he's safe more than entertaining him, fortunately.
Oh yeah, you don't want them to get hurt on your watch.
Oh, good heavens, no. Oh my gosh. I would die. Um, okay, finally, if you'll close your eyes for just a second. And in your mind's eye, what do you see when I say wise woman?
Mm. A wise woman is built out of hurt, heartache, and pain.
Yeah.
Um, there is a Helen Reddy song that my mom used to play for me all the time. And, I am woman, I am
Yeah.
strong, I am invincible. And in the middle of that song, she says, it is through pain that I have been made. And I have been through so many dark times that I did not think I would ever come out of. And I did. And so much of it was, yes, I'm strong and I'm stubborn, but I had a mother, I had a best friend, I had children that were counting on me, and just incredibly grateful for what I have
Yeah.
today because it was born out of so much darkness. And boy, my life is so good right now. And to anyone going through a hard time, I would just say, remember, it doesn't last forever and you can come out of
Yeah.
it. And be good to yourself when you're feeling like I'm never going to make it. One foot in front of the other, and you will come out of it. That's that's what happened to me.
100%. And probably, you know, you may face your biggest nightmare. You may.
Mhm.
One of my biggest nightmares is bankruptcy, like you said. What would happen if I'm 62 now? What would happen, if I can't pay my bills or if I can. Financial situations are to me the biggest issue for
Mhm.
me because I was raised in a a poor house, and so it was always scraping, scraping, scraping. And so I distrust when I have enough money because
Well,
it's not normal. It wasn't normal for me growing up. Now it's fine. But still it's that fear in the back of my mind because that was what my parents feared the most
sure. And my
was
dad and
going broke.
mom, they
Yeah.
raised me. I had a checking account when I was 10 years old because
Wow.
I was an ice skater. And so they made me pay my own bills. I had to set a budget from the time I was 10 years old. So you can imagine how devastating it was to me being raised. I was making budgets at 10 years old. How could this have happened to me? How did I? And
Right.
just so embarrassing. And I just say that if you are going through that or you have gone through that, you can get through it. I mean,
Yeah.
that 7 year mark where it fell off my credit report, and when my credit score reached 800 again, I called my best friend bawling. I did it.
Yeah.
I did it. I did it. And so, I mean, it is embarrassing. It's humiliating. And it's like, but you can get through it. You can.
Right.
And so I understand your fear.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a, I'm still traumatized from it.
Well, I can imagine. I can imagine. I think, and one of the things we can think about is what is my greatest fear and what if it were to happen? And if it happened, could I get through it? You don't think so before you actually hit it. And then you realize I don't have another choice,
You don't.
and so you do. You get through it. I got through a divorce that I never wanted. I got through parents divorcing that I never wanted. There are things in everybody's life that happen that are no fault of anybody. It just happens. And yeah, you can get through it. And
You can.
congratulations for getting through it and surviving
Thank
and
you so
thriving.
much.
And I'm glad your life is wonderful now.
It is. It is. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for being on the episode. I really appreciate your sharing your wisdom to everyone out there. And we will definitely talk later. And folks, I will put her link to her Studio 13 in the show notes. Please take a look and throw her some business. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you, Julie.
Julie Noonan here. Thank you so much for listening to Roaming with Restless Women. If you're a successful senior woman leader who would like to be on this program, please visit podcast.intuitivewisdomcoach.com. If you enjoyed this interview, please share this episode on social media and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Your thumbs ups and reviews go a long way.